Supposed to go learning. Yeah, Panacea. We're starting Lamed Test. Lamed Beis. It's about 10 lines from the bottom. I'm Rabbi Yanai. I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Yanai was a teacher of Rabbi Yochanan. We had this machlokes Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Yochanan. Maybe they were contemporaries. Gemara starts like this. I'm Rabbi Yanai. Alias Geirel mitech kalpi ma'akeves. Hanacha eina ma'akeves. Rabbi Yanai says, okay, what's happening here is that we have two goats that are going to be sacrifices. One is the sacrifice la Hashem, one is la Azazel. I don't know if I'm supposed to say it like that. That it's the sacrifice la Azazel. I'm not sure exactly what the nature is of the goat la Azazel, whatever it is. So you have to determine which one goes where. And the way that's done is with a girdle. So how did they do it? The Mishnah says, Tarif Bekalpi, they snatched two things out of a box. And one of them said Lashem, one said the girdle. Now, which one went to which? Well, they put the two animals, one on his right side, one on his left side. We said yesterday there was a machlokes if the Kohen Gadol did it, or if the Kohen Gadol only used his right hand and the Sagan used his right hand. Okay, whatever the case is, Rabbi Yanai says that if you don't do the girdle, it's ma'akev. It affects the validity of the sacrifices. However, after the girdle, they would place the lot on the animal. That's not ma'akev. That's what Rabbi Yanai says. Rabbi Yochanan says even the lottery itself isn't ma'akev. So then how are you going to determine which one is the chatas and which one isn't? The Kohen is going to say, this one's the chatas, and this one's the chatas la Hashem, and this one, he can just pronounce it. It doesn't have to do the lottery. Okay. So machlokes now, Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Yochanan, if the lottery is ma'akev. Everyone agrees that hanacha, the placing of the lots on the animals, is not ma'akev, but the lottery itself is a machlokes. Aliba de Rabbi Yehuda da medvar manasim bebig de lavim machutz lai ma'akva kuliam lai pligid lai ma'akva. Okay, so machlokes later on between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. If everything on Yom Kippur is ma'akev or not. According to the opinion of Rabbi Nechemia, he's stricter. Rabbi Nechemia says that it says the word chukah. It's a statute. That tells me that anything that's done on Yom Kippur, the big day lavan, anything that's done in the white clothes, the four garments, is ma'akev. And Rabbi Yehuda says no. The word chukah that it says is only referring to what's brought inside the sanctuary, not the sanctuary, inside the Kodesh Kodashim. But anything that's not l'fnai v'l'fnim, anything that's not mamish inside, it's not ma'akev. So now we have a machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yanai if the girdle is ma'akev. So the Gemara right away says, well, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that says things that are done b'big day lavan b'chutz lai ma'akev. So everyone agrees it's not ma'akev. It doesn't affect the validity because these parts of the service is not ma'akev. However, according to Rabbi Nechemia, that says everything on Yom Kippur is ma'akev. So then I understand Rabbi Yanai and what's Rabbi Yochanan going to say. The mandamar ma'akva to Rabbi Nechemia, the one that says that it's ma'akev, which is Rabbi Yanai, says you have to do the girdle. If not, the sacrifice isn't valid. Well, good. It said chukah. He holds like Rabbi Nechemia. Mandamar loy ma'akva. What about Rabbi Yochanan? Why doesn't it? Why is the girdle not ma'akev? He says hani mili avoda. That's only the services are ma'akev, but hagrala la avoda. The girdle is not an avoda. The girl just determines which animal goes to what. Okay. Now, there's a Rashi here in the parentheses, and I have on the side of the Gemara, it says the Marsha takes it out, but he adds a little bit in this parentheses, he adds a little bit of explanation here. The Marsha takes it out, so I don't know if it's correct. I didn't check why he takes it out. But the explanation that he adds is that yesterday we learned does the Kohen Gadol do the Hagrala himself, the Girl himself, or does he do it together with the Sagan? If the Kohen Gadol does the girl himself, then obviously it's a real avodah, because the whole service of Yom Kippur has to be done only by the Kohen Gadol. If the Sagan is also sticking his hand in there, his right hand, and taking one out, so then obviously the girl is not one of the avodas, or else he wouldn't be allowed to do it today. Unless the Kohen Gadol is Tameh or whatever, and he has to be replaced. A witness too. Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. Yeah, but the girl the two animals were the same. So it didn't really matter. Oh, you wanted to say that maybe he would lie about which one came up in his right hand. Uh-huh. Okay, so whatever the case is, if that's if this is what we're talking about, if this is a pshat, that there is a machlaikas about if the girl is done by the Kohen Gadol himself or together with the Sagan, that could fit in very nicely into this machlaikas between Rabbi Yana and Rabbi Yechon if the girl is ma'akev. We're saying that if the girl is an avodah, according to Rabbi Nechemia, all services of Yom Kippur are ma'akev. And so this should also be ma'akev if this is an avodah, if the Kohen Gadol does it himself. If not, then we could say like Rabbi Yechanan that it's not considered an avodah. Okay, it's not confusing here. It's just a machlekes Rabbi Yana and Rabbi Yechanan if the girl is ma'akev. The only problem is who are they? Whose opinion are they discussing? Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Yana are Amirai Eretz Yisrael. And they're discussing the opinion of Rabbi Nechemia, who's a student of Rabbi Akiva. He's one of the earlier Tanaim, the later Tanaim, earlier than Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Yam. Ikad Amri, Aliba de Rabbi Nechemia, the Amar Ma'akva Kuli Amalei Pligi de Ma'akva. There's another version over here. We call this the Lishna Basra. We have another version of what the Machlekes is. Machlekes is Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Yana, but the question is, who are they arguing in? Not Rabbi Nechemia. According to Rabbi Nechemia, everyone holds that the Gairol is ma'akev. If you don't do the Gairol, the lottery, then you can't determine which one is the Karban Chatas. When do they argue? Well, even Rabbi Yehuda. In the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Rabbi Yehuda said that nothing here is ma'akev. If it's not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's not ma'akev. So how are you going to say, Rabbi Yanai, that it's ma'akev? So Mandam Alei Ma'akva, Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, Rabbi Yehuda, you'll take Rabbi Yehuda, nothing is ma'akev unless it's in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Mandamar Ma'akva, in Rabbi Yanai's opinion, very strict about the Gairol. How is he getting strict about the Gairol? They're not. Says Hacha the Tani Beikra Asher Allah Trei Zimni. It says twice. Gairol Asher Allah. It says Asher Allah twice in the pasuk. So that's one of the rules that we had in Masechet Zvachim 3 years ago. That anything that gets repeated in Karbanas means that it's ma'akev. Yeah, any chukah meant that it was ma'akev, like we learned over here. And if the halacha gets repeated again, it's also ma'akev. There may have been some other words over there in Zvachim that told us why does this pasuk, why does this phrase get repeated? To tell me, first one is to tell me to do it. The second one is to tell me that if I didn't do it, it's not valid. So here, even though Rabbi Yehuda says that really these services are not ma'akev, because the word chukah, which tells me that everything is ma'akev, everything is indispensable means that it's not ma'akev. Indispensable means that you can't do without it. That means that it is ma'akev. So, Rabbi Yehuda says that all of these things are dispensable. So why over here all of a sudden is the Gairol Ma'akev? Because it says Asher Allah twice. Okay. Meisvei. Is that the opposite of indispensable? What's the opposite of indispensable? Dispensable. So indispensable is the required. Okay. So, Macy, the Gemara has a question. Mitzvah lahagril, vim lahigril kasha. It's a mitzvah to do the gyral. And if you don't do the gyral, it's kasha. It's pretty clear that it's not ma'akev. No? Yeah. So, yeah. Say, this one is going to be for Hashem, and this one is for Azazel. So that should be a strong proof to Rabbi Yochanan. The only thing is, not necessarily. Why? Because Bishlam alahach lishna, the Amrit aliba, the Rabbi Yehuda kuli amalei pligi. Remember in our first version of explaining the Machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yanai, we said that in Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, everyone agrees that if you don't do the girl, it's still kasha. They were arguing, what does Rabbi Nechemia say about it? Rabbi Nechemia that says that everything is ma'akev. So what about the girl? Is it an avodah or not? So now we have a brisa. We have an easy teretz. What's the teretz? It goes according to Kuli Amalei Pligid Leimak B'Hamani Rabbi Yehudi. It's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. I know that Rabbi Yehuda holds that. That wasn't our discussion. We were arguing what Rabbi Nechemia holds. Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's not ma'akev. Good. Allahach lishna, but according to the second version of explaining the Machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yanai, the second version, the Amrit, we're on top of Daf Mem. Pligi, that Lahach lishna Amrit Pligi, that they argue in the words of Rabbi Yehuda himself. Rabbi Yehuda that says it's not ma'akev. What about over here? But according to Rabbi Yochanan, we understand why it's only mitzvah lahagril. But if you don't, it's still kasher, because Rabbi Yochanan holds the girl isn't an avodah. Hamani. So who's the author of that price? Rabbi Yehudi. But according to Rabbi Yanai, you have to think about this. Rabbi Yanai holds that what? That Rabbi Nechemia holds for sure it's ma'akev. And even Rabbi Yehuda that holds that other things aren't ma'akev, but this is also ma'akev because it says Asher Allah twice. So who's the author of the brisa? Hamani. So who's the author? We're left with no author to this price, and no one holds that according to Rabbi Yanai. So the Gemara, in order to explain this price according to Rabbi Yanai, according to the second version of the Gemara, Hani mitzvah lahaniach. We change the word. We say, instead of mitzvah lahagril, the mitzvah to do the girl, we say it's a mitzvah to place it. You have to place it on the animal. Notice the girl itself is ma'akev. According to who? According to whoever you want. According to Rabbi Yehuda and according to Rabbi Nechemia. So why is it saying it's not ma'akev? It means after you finish the girl to place it on the animal, that's just mitzvah. That's just mitzvah lania, but it's not ma'akev. Okay, Tashima, come and listen. Mitzvah lahagril, u'lesvades. There's a mitzvah to do the girl and to say vida. Lahigril v'leisvada, it's kasha. If you didn't do the girl and you didn't do the vida, it's kasha. Oh, so there were two vidas here. First vida was on the first part. That's a personal vida for him and his household. Second vida is on the parsheni. That's for him and the kayanim. And then the third vida is on the sar amishtaleh, on the goat that's being sent out. That's three vidas. Each vida has 3 times Hashem's name, and which equals a total of 10 Hashem's names because there's an extra pronouncement of Hashem Chata. Okay. So what we did right now is we brought in another brisa that also says mitzvah lahagril. And we're going to try to see that this brisa also, can we also explain it to say that it's just mitzvah lahaniya? Mitzvah lahagril itself is a problem because it tells me that the girl is not ma'akev, which is a problem according to Rabbi Yanai. So here we have another brisa that says mitzvah lahagril. Okay, answer it. You answered the last brisa, which said the same words. Just explain this brisa the same way. Mitzvah laniach. The Gemara says, no, you can't do that. Ema seifa. Let's read further. Reb Shimon Aimer lo higril kosher. Lo yisvada is puzzle. Reb Shimon saying, I agree with you with one thing. That the goyrol, you're right. It's not ma'akev. If you didn't do the goyrol, it's still kosher. But the vidoy, that's ma'akev. Now, what's the explanation for the machlekes about vidoy? That we'll get to shortly. The Bach actually throws it in very close, and Rashi also seems that it's supposed to be here, and it's out of order, the Gemara, but we'll read the text so we don't lose everyone. But the machlekes about vidoy will be explained. What we need to go back to is that there's a machlekes about the girl they agree to. My lehigril, what does it mean when they're agreeing to the girl? That the girl is not ma'akev. If you're telling me that it means that if you don't place it down, it's not ma'akev. The girl itself, michlal, but this would imply that Reb Shimon Tzavar hagrala ma'akva. That Reb Shimon holds that the girl is ma'akev. Now we're about to throw in a third opinion. We have Reb Yehuda, we have Reb Nechemia, and now we're going to have Reb Shimon. Now, Reb Yehuda and Reb Nechemia are arguing very general if everything on Yom Kippur is ma'akev or not. Reb Nechemia says yes, and Reb Yehuda says no. Now, Reb Yanai and Reb Yochanan are arguing in either Reb Nechemia's opinion or in Reb Yehuda's opinion. But in Reb Shimon's opinion, everyone's going to accept that the goyrel is not ma'akev. Now, what we're just seeing that Reb Shimon says that the goyrel is not ma'akev. Now, if we translate that the goyrel is not ma'akev, that means that the placing it is not ma'akev. That implies that the goyrel itself is yes ma'akev. Michlal, the Reb Shimon Tzavar goyrel ma'akva. V'hatanya, but we have a brisa meisechad miyam. If one of the animal dies after the goyrel was performed, after the lottery was performed, so maybe chavere shalei ba'agrala. Divrei Reb Shimon, you bring another animal in, just replace it without a goyrel. Obviously, Reb Shimon holds that the goyrel is not the determining that what makes it kodesh, or what the goyrel isn't the one that determines. The kohen can replace it with just a pronouncement. So Reb Shimon must hold the goyrel's not ma'akev. Now, if Reb Shimon holds the goyrel's not ma'akev, why did he say the hanacha is not ma'akev? Much more than that. The goyrel itself isn't ma'akev. Now, the truth is, the words that he said is that the goyrel, if lehigril, is kosher. But the translation of those words, according to us, was you didn't place it down. It's kosher. So if we're going to translate lehigril kosher means lehiniach is kosher, that would imply that lehigril is puzzle. Problem is, Reb Shimon holds that you don't need to do the goyrel. So the Gemara explains like this: Reb Shimon lo yada mai kami rabbanan. Reb Shimon's saying the same words that the rabbis are saying. He just doesn't know what they mean. So he's parroting them and saying, I possibly agree with you about those words. I just don't want to get into it. But I definitely disagree with you about something else. It goes, Vahachi Kamalu, and this is what he's telling them. Iha grala mamish kamrisu. If you're telling me that the goyrel, when you said that mitzvah lahagril, the first opinion here, it said, mitzvah lahagril asvades lehigril leasvades kasher. If what you mean is that if you don't do the goyrel at all, it's still kosher, so then palginu alaychem b'chada. Then I am arguing only about one topic, and that is about the vidoy. I hold the vidoy is ma'akev, you hold the vidoy is. But if you're going to translate goyrel meaning as placing it down, then I'll argue with you about two things. But I'm not getting into that. I know for sure I'm arguing about the vidoy, and that's why he's just saying the same word as they're saying. Yeah. They didn't go and translate the terms. This is what happens in debates. They forget to translate the terms, and they're each saying the same word, meaning different things. and then it gets confusing. But you agreed to me. So I agreed to you saying that Geirol meant Hanacha. I agreed to you. Or whatever. Here, if Geirol means really Geirol, then I agree with you. But I don't know what you meant when you said Geirol. Okay. Yeah. 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 The first thing you have to do is define the terms. Then you can discuss it. Okay. So this is where the Bach switches the gears. So let's just read straight. In summary, what we just did, we had a question on how to explain the opinion of Rabbi Yanai. Because we had a brisa that says that the girl's not market. It says mitzvah lahagra. So we explained that when it says mitzvah lahagra, it means mitzvah lania. Then we had a problem because we have another brisa which became more difficult to translate mitzvah lahagra as mitzvah lania because it had Reb Shimon in there. So we said, oh, don't worry about that because Reb Shimon can still be explained that it means mitzvah lahagra as well, and the Rabbanan still mean mitzvah lania. So it just leaves us a little bit with the question that our whole problem was finding an opinion to attribute to the brisa that says that the girl is not ma'akim. We said, well, Nehemiah, for sure it's ma'akim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it depends how you want to learn it. But if you learn it this way, then we have a big problem according to Rabbi Yanai. Why are you telling me it's not ma'akim? According to Rabbi Yanai, it is ma'akim. Which leaves me with no opinion for Rabbi Yanai to say that it's the girl is ma'akim. And then the Gemara has no problem telling me, what do you mean? I have Reb Shimon. I could have just said, they're not discussing Reb Shimon. Mitzvah lahagro, im lahigro kasha is Reb Shimon. I mean, once you introduce Reb Shimon into this, then you have an answer to every brisa that you're going to bring up. Tosfos asks. Tosfos answers basically, in short, that because there's a brisa that concludes with Reb Shimon Aimer, then obviously the first opinion can't be Reb Shimon. It's got to be Rabbi Yehuda, Reb Nehemiah. Based on that, I have to fit it in. Somehow, I'll have to retranslate the terms and say that it's mitzvah lahagel means mitzvah lania. Okay. Tashma. Come and listen. In order to learn the next piece of Gemara, I have to just tell you that Avodah of Yom Kippur is slightly confusing. There's a lot of services, and it's really done like, it's not like you shech the par, and then you do the whole service of the par. You shech the second par, you do the whole service of the second par. Shech the sar, you do the whole service, and then do the kataras. It's not how it works. They shechted the par. He says the viday on the par. Then he just leaves it, and he goes and he does a gairol for the sar. Then he goes back and he's going to say the viday on the second part. Then he's going to shech the first part. Then he's going to do the ketairas. Then he's going to take the blood of the part inside of the first part. Then he's going to do shchita on the sar. Then he's going to sprinkle the blood of the sar inside. Then he's going to sprinkle the blood of the par on the parechas. Then he's going to sprinkle the blood of the sar on the parechas. Then he's going to mix the blood in the par and the sar together, and he's going to sprinkle it on the mizbeach hafemes. When does he shech the second par? Maybe he does that after the viday on the second par. Yeah, Bala Yetzel Parishniya. the same. In the next Mishnah, he's going to do the Vida on it. Then Shachta. Then he's going to Shechta. So that would come. Vida and Shechita of the second par.
Is it clear that there are two parim? In other words, could it be that he did the vidui twice on one animal?
Yeah, and then that's what when I read Rashi, that's what it appears to be saying.
Because it speaks of the par we're coming to in singular.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd be asking which par is this or that.
I don't think it works like that. I think it says partial. I think it says clearly. It's based on the Rashi, based on this Rashi. Parmak as a sir. Look at that Rashi. It's the so Icarus Parachatas Ashalai. Shachatas Parachatas Ashalai. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Does it say that there were two par, or there was just two Vida on the par? Rashi looks like there were just two Vida on the par, like Naftali saying. Okay. What happens now is in this price it says par ma'akav asar. The avodah of the par, certain avodas of the par have to come before the sar. And if you didn't do that, you did the sar first, then the sar becomes the goat becomes invalid, and you have to redo it again after you do the par. So the par, the service of the par needs to be before the sar. The sar ain't makbes par. However, there are certain services of the sar that have to come before the par, but it's not ma'akev. If you did the par first, it's fine. And we're talking about the blood that goes inside. That's where we meant that the par is ma'akev asar, because the par came before the sar. The bull comes before the goat when bringing it inside. Okay. Bishleima par ma'akev asar. We understand what it means when we say par ma'akev asar, that the par needs to be before the sar. The aktame l'sar mikame par, because if you did the sar, if you brought the blood of the goat inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim and you sprinkled it on the kapiras, on the lid of the aron, before the par, you didn't do anything. The par was supposed to come first. But what are you talking about when you say that the sar is not ma'akev the par, that the goat? When do you do something of the goat before the par? Well, maybe you'll say that the sprinkling of the blood on the pareichas, which is done in the heichal, is supposed to come after the sar goes inside. The blood of the sar goes inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So maybe what you did was like this: you sprinkled the blood of the par in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, then you sprinkled the blood of the par in the heichal, but you didn't do the sar in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So you did it out of order. The sar was supposed to be in the Kodesh HaKadoshim first. Now the problem with that is, what are you telling me that it's not ma'akev? Everyone holds that what goes inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim is chukah. It's a statute, which means it's ma'akev. at the beginning we said that the word chukah tells me that if you don't do it in order, it's makif. Now, what was chukah referring to? Was it referring to all the services of the day? Was it just referring to things in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Rabbi Yehuda says it's referring to things in the Kodesh, and everyone holds it's for sure the things in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Of course, if it's more than that. So now you're telling me that if you did the soyer, if you did the soyer, the soyer is not makif a part. So if you skipped the soyer and you just did the part in the heichal without doing the soyer in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's not makif. How could you say that? It says chukah. Elalav, it must be. The aktim matanis the par b'fnim mikami hagrala. It must be that when you shechted the par, that was supposed to be after the girl. Now the soyer is not ma'akiv the par. So what did you do? You shechted the par without the girl. And it's not ma'akiv. Now, based on that, if that's the pshat, then umi the sidra lay makva, ikra hagrala nami lay makva. Now we make an assumption that if the order of the girl isn't ma'akiv, probably the girl itself isn't ma'akiv. Now, if that's the case, that the girl's not ma'akiv, now we have a raya to Rabbi Yochanan. The girl's not ma'akiv. Okay, this was a complicated way to get to that question, but okay. So the Gemara says, like, that's not the pshat. The aktim matanis depar b'mizbeach mikame matanis desor behechal. In the heichal itself, there's two sprinklings of the blood. One is on the pareches, and one is on the mizbeach hapnimi, the keteris mizbeach, the golden altar. So on the mizbeach hapnimi, they were supposed to be sprinkled together, the pari and the sar. And before that was done, first the sar was sprinkled on the pareches. First the pari is on the pareches, then the sar is on the pareches, and then they're mixed together. Okay. So what did he do over here? He sprinkled the blood of the par on the mizbeach without sprinkling the blood of the soyer on the pareches. So it was out of order, and it's not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's in the heichal. But Rabbi Yehuda, and it's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that says if it's not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's fine. It says if it's not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So we're not talking about the girl. We're talking about the actual sprinkling of the blood that you did the par before the sar, and we're saying that the sar is not matir. And forget about the raya about the girl. Mar says 1 second, but matana shebifnim katani. It must be that you're talking about that. It says that we're dealing with matana shebifnim, the blood that's going inside. And in that we're saying that the par is not that the star is not makif the par. The Gemara answers that Elahamani Reb Shimoni. Okay, remember we said that Reb Shimon could resolve all of our problems. So here we have it. This actually is the opinion of Reb Shimon. Damar hagrala laimakva. Go back to the first pshat. First pshat was that what were you doing with the par while you were skipping something of the star? You skipped the girdle. You see, the girdle's not makif. So we're saying, you find the girdle's not makif, but that's the opinion of Reb Shimon. We were talking in Reb Nechemia or in Reb Yehuda, and they hold that it is makif. The brisa that you just said is Reb Shimon's. Biba Yasema, if you want, you could say Lailam Reb Yehudi. Really, it's not Reb Shimon. Really, it's Reb Yehuda. So that's going to fit well with Reb Yochanan, but it won't fit well with Reb Yana. It says Nehida b'sidra leimakva hagrala miyamakva. However, you made an assumption. You said that if the order is not ma'akiv, you don't need to do the girdle either. He says that assumption is false. The order is not ma'akiv, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to do it. Still have to do it. So that would fit with Rabbi Yanai, that the girl is makif. Now, Va'azdul Tamayu goes back to explain there was a machlekes regarding vidui. Vidui is makif. It's a machlekes Reb Shimon and the Tanakama. Va'azdul Tamayu. That machlekes of vidui is according to is based on their reasoning. The Tanya, it was taught in a brisa. Yoma Daf Lefnei Hashem lechaper alav. This is the soyer has to stand there. You don't send away the soyer mishnaleach, the soyer tazazel, until the other one is shechted. How long does it have to stand there? Until the blood is placed of the other one. And Reb Shimon Eimer Adshas Videi Dvarim. It only has to be there until the Videi. But my kamifligi, what's a machlekes? Okay, the Tanya was taught in the Brisa. L'chaper b'chav. No, I think the Videi on the side. Videi on the side. Yeah, we're learning this according to Gesund. We're learning this according to Rashi's pshat. Tosfos says a different pshat today. Tosfos says that this Va'azdul Tamayu is explaining not the vidui, but it's explaining if the girl's makif. That's a different way of learning it. Rashi quotes that pshat. He says he doesn't like that pshat. Okay, what's the machlekes over here? B'may kamiflagi. Kedetanya was taught in the Brisa lechaper when it says lechaper. Yom Lefnei Hashem lechaper alav. What is lechaper referring to? The kaparas damim makasim medaber. The kapara, the cleansing that's done, the atonement that's done with the blood. And it will conclude from atonement of the holies. So just like that kapara was referring to the blood, so too this kapara is referring to the sprinkling of the blood. That tells me that the other animal, the other goat, has to be there until the blood is sprinkled of its fellow, of its friend goat. When it says l'chaper alav, it's referring to the vidui. So Reb Shimon holds that the vidui is ma'akif. That's what this is based on. That machlekes. Okay. Yeah. I assume that the pilot, and his co-pilot, they have a checklist. I assume that they say, we check the gas level, yeah. They check this, yeah. They have to go through the checklist. I hope the surgeons do the same thing. They go through a checklist. I know by a get, which is also very serious, there's a checklist that they go through. And the rabbi actually speaks it out. He says, did we hear the husband say that he's his own free will? You heard? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next question. So there must have been something going on over there. We did the vidui. Was that the vidui? Okay. Yeah. Okay. We can go on.
Quality assurance.
What is that?
Quality assurance.
Quality assurance. All right. Okay, Tashima. It doesn't say that they're not allowed to talk. Does it say they're not allowed to talk? Yeah. Okay. Tashima. Sholu Talmidav Rabbi Akiva. The student asked Rabbi Akiva. Allah bismal ma'oshi yachsel yamin. Yeah, it's a little bit unclear what the question is. But if he takes we're thinking like this, if he takes the lottery out and it comes up in his right hand, then we're very happy. It says, La Hashem comes. Let's say it comes up in the left hand. And, it's not a good sign. So can you just switch it to the right and do that? So, Amar Lahan, I'll titnu. We'll switch it to the right, and the other one will become the chapa. because it's a better sign. The symbolism is better. It comes out of that. Right.
Let's show like a shadow.
It's probably just to make the crowd happy. So, Amalem al titnu makam letzedukim lerdes. Don't, I don't know if that's the correct word, lerdes, I guess. Don't give room for the tzedukim to be, to rebel. You're giving them, like fodder. You're giving them too much information, too much thing. Don't do that. The people are going to start to, they're going to question what's happening. Taima, what's going on over here? What's the whole problem? Rabbi Kiva saying don't do that. It's because he doesn't want people to start talking. If not for them, if no one was around, there's no media there. So Madrina light, then you could switch it. But how does the girl, if the girl doesn't work, if the girl doesn't matter, and you can just switch it, the whole problem was the media, was the tzedukim that are gonna. So how does it fit with the Rabbi Yanai said the girl was makif? Rabbi Yochanan says not. Given the kavati b'smal, how does, I mean, the girl has to mean something. You lifted it up, the left hand has to go to the left. Amarav achi kamri, Allah girl b'smal mal she'achziru lo v'lasiru liyamin. What we're saying is switch the goats and switch the lottery. That means the girl did work, but we'll just pronounce it. We got it, came up in the right, and the girl actually worked. It came up in the left, but we'll switch the goats also. So it'll be fine. So for that, don't make a joke out of this. The tzedukim are going to start talking, and that's not good. But there was never a question if the girl doesn't work. The girl worked. Okay. Tashema. Ilu nemar sasar shir alav. The pasuk says asar asher Allah alav hagirl. The sar, the goat that it came up on it for Hashem is first. If it only said asher alav, the lottery that it's on it, then I would have said that you had to place it. Talmud loymar Allah, but the pasuk says that it comes up on it. Tivan she'Allah shuvei nitzara. Once it came up, you don't have to place it. It says Lamai. What are you referring to? Ilema mitzvah. If you're telling me that you don't have to place it at all, that tells me that there's no mitzvah even to place it on it. Elalav, but that's impossible because we said that you're supposed to place it. Elalav l'akev. What you're telling me is that it's not that there's no mitzvah to place it. Of course there's a mitzvah to place it. You're talking about after you know there's a mitzvah. But if you didn't do it, it's not ma'akev. Okay, so what does that tell me? Shmamina, that would tell me that the placing it is not ma'akev, but the goyrol is yes ma'akev. Shmamina hagrala makfa nachalei makfa. That tells me that the girl is yes ma'akev. It's just the placing it that's not. Now, the girl being ma'akev is a problem according to Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Rava achikamar. Rava says this is what it means. Ilu nemar sher alav. If it would say that's on it, I mean that you would have to leave it on it until the shchita. That once you put it on it, I guess it doesn't have to be there the whole time. Tashema, another brayso. Vasel chatas. You make it into a chatas. Hagirl asel chatas, ve'in Hashem asel chatas. The girl causes it to be the chatas, and not the pronouncement of it that causes it to be the chatas. That means the girl is the one that's effective. Sheyachal, because I could have thought about leidinhu, it's that it's logical. Ma b'makom like kiddush hagirl, kiddush Hashem. When it comes to other sacrifices, for example, a woman that gives birth, she has to bring 2 birds. One's a chatas, one's an ayla. How do you determine which one's a chatas and ayla? The Kayan says this one will be the chatas, this one will be the ayla. So over there, in a place, if he does a lottery, but he does no pronouncement, nothing happens. In a place like Kiddush HaGirl, Kiddush Hashem, but the pronouncement is effective over there by those birds. Makam Shekiddush HaGirl and Edin Shekiddush Hashem. In a place where the girl does work, should not the Kiddush Hashem for sure work? Talmud Leimer Vasel Chatas. A girl is Chatas, Vein Hashem is Chatas. I need the pasuk to tell me that the pronouncement isn't what does it, it's the girl. Okay. Now I have a clear proof that the girl is the one that's significant. The girl is the one that makes it Stam Sifra Mani. Where's this pasuk? The pasuk that you quoted is in Vayikra, is in Achrimais. Who's the author of the Medrash on Vayikra? The Medrash on Vayikra is called the Sifra, the Sefer, as opposed to the Sifrei, which is on Bamidbar Dvarim. Who's the author of the Medrash on Vayikra, the Sifra? Is Rabbi Yehuda. There's your Simon.
It's called differently for each sefer.
No, well, there's on Vayikra, it's the Sifra, because that's the big one. Big Medrash. It's not the Medrash Rabbah. It's the Halacha Medrash. This is the Midrashe Halacha. This is the on Shemais, it's the Mechilta. On Vayikra, it's called the Sifra or Teres Kayanim, same sefer. Sifra de Beirav, it's called. And then the Sifrei, you have Sifri. Who's the author of the Sifri? Sifri is the Rashbi.
What's on Bereshis?
The Bereshis doesn't have a halacha medrash. It's not really halacha there. So Stam Sifra Mani. Who's the author of the Sifra? Rabbi Yehuda. It's Rabbi Yehuda. V'katani hagirl asel chatas v'nashim asel chatas. And it tells me that the girl is the one that makes it into the chatas, not the pronouncement. Alma hagrala makva. We see that the girl is makiv. Tifta mandamar grala makva. It's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Tifta. So we stay with the question on Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, let's leave it over here.